Alrighty, welcome back everyone. So I'm sure many of you guys already know this by now, but last night we got the LR EZA confirmed and the details released for LR Hit and Super Saiyan God Goku. Now this unit has been out for quite some time now, so a lot of people, including myself, have been waiting for this EZA. Now that we have it finally coming to the game, a lot of people are very excited, and of course today, that does mean we can go ahead and see what this character can now do with an updated kit through their EZA. So we'll go ahead and talk about that later in the video, of course. Also though, we did have a bit of a minor data download take place as well, which includes some information on some new content that we can look forward to. So we'll talk about that as well later in the vid. There's a lot of stuff we got to cover today, but the first thing I want to cover is the new EZA for Hit and Super Saiyan God Goku. We'll go ahead and talk about the EZA, what it has to offer. We'll talk about the hidden potential build you may want to use on this character. We'll talk about the links, we'll talk about the categories, all of that important stuff. So hopefully you guys will enjoy the vid today. If you do, show your support, drop a like down below, and subscribe to the channel. Also, comment down below your thoughts. Let us know what do you guys think about the EZA for Hit and Super Saiyan God Goku. Let us know in the comments down below about your thoughts there. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So first thing is first, with the EZA, of course, that does mean the leader skill will get updated, the super attack effects, and the passive skill, and all that important stuff. So, with the leader skill, now, they are a Key +4 in HP attack and defense, 170% lead for accelerated battle and universe survival saga. Now, comparing that to their previous kit, right, this is their previous kit, right, the EZA hasn't gone through their data download yet, but you know, with their original leader skill, they were a 150% lead for the two categories. Now that has been bumped up to 170%. So, truth be told, not the best leader skill. Most likely you're not going to want to run this unit as a leader, but the fact of the matter is still is a nice kind of solid buff in the right direction, so we do appreciate that of course, you know, for a yellow coin LR like them. Now when we look at the two categories, you know, accelerated battle has a lot of great units to offer. I mean, obviously you have them, but of course you have the Golden Week Hit, who is awesome of course in his own right. You have Glorio, you have Super Saiyan 3 Goku from last year's Golden Week celebration. Not the best character in the world now obviously, but still pretty decent in certain specific forms of content, mainly shorter form content. You have Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3 Goku from like the EZA and stuff for the Majin Buu kind of saga and everything. Obviously they got their EZA last year, like end of last year really, so you know they got their EZA of course. You do have 10th anniversary Gogeta, you have Go Frieza, you have GT Goku, you have Tech Super Vegito, you have great characters like that. You have Kaioken Goku, you have a great Vegeta, you have the Super Saiyan 4s. A lot of great characters happen to fit through accelerated battle, so this is a great category to be covered through their leader skill. Also, Universe Survival Saga, obviously Hit and Super Saiyan God Goku took place during the Tournament of Power, so they covered this category. They include characters like Super Saiyan Blue Evolved Vegeta, you know, you have Tech UI Goku, you have Go Frieza again, MUI, Super Saiyan Blue Evolved Vegeta, you know, Evo Ken, all those other characters. So, you know, as a leader skill is concerned, again, you may not want to use them for the leader skill, but they do cover some pretty nice categories, especially accelerated battle. Although, to be fair, if you have other characters like Glorio and Hit in them, you're probably going to want them as the leader skill. But, you know, again, like, there's a lot of great characters who fit into the category. It's awesome that they can lead that themselves. So, you know, nice positive there. We'll talk about the super attack effects later because that's going to be saved at like the later part, of course, but greatly raising attack and defense for one turn, that looks pretty good for the 12 key super, it looks like. So, passive skill first though. So, with the basic effect, obviously you see they have 200% to their stats, also Key +5. Nice boost for them with the Key, because Key is very important for an LR, of course, so that's really nice there. 20% flat out damage reduction. Attacks are guaranteed to hit, so, you know, pay attention to this, because basically any sort of opponent who can dodge, basically any UI Goku, for example, they will not be safe from Hit and Super Saiyan God Goku, which is a very interesting kind of thing. I guess it makes sense because of Hit, but attacks guaranteed to hit, not the biggest, most impactful thing in the world, but still nice to have that for opponents who can be kind of annoying with gimmicks, who dodge and stuff like that. Also, launch additional attack that's a great chance to become a super, so 70% chance to become a super right there with an additional high chance of dodging enemies' attacks, so that's a 50% chance right there built into their kit in general. When HP is 67% or more, a very interesting kind of number there, but 67%, then they will boost their damage reduction by 10%, so that'll become a total of 30% in any slot in general. When attacking, attack and defense will increase by 67%, and they will disable the enemy's guard in general, so that's really awesome there as well. As the first or second slot unit in a turn, Key +6, attack and defense plus 160%, and they will boost their chance of dodging and their damage reduction by 16% once again, so that'll boost it up to 46% damage reduction, as well as boosting it, I believe, to 66% dodge chance, so that's pretty good right there. For every attack received and evaded as the first or second slot unit in a turn, they will boost their attack by 20% up to 100%. So basically simple math right there. You have to dodge or receive an attack 5 times for them to permanently boost their attack up to 100% for the rest of the fight. So pretty straightforward there, but that has to be done in slot 1 or slot 2. As the third slot unit in a turn, they will boost their Key by 7 and attack by 170%. Note there is no defensive boost right there, so that's pretty important. Launch additional guaranteed super and interrupt the attacked enemy, so that's pretty awesome right there. For every attack that's performed as the third slot unit, they'll boost their defense by 20% up to 100%. So same kind of premise as this kind of condition right here, but there is a difference. So in slot 3, they have to do more attacks. For 5 attacks that they do, they'll boost their defense, and you know, slot 1, slot 2, they have to dodge or receive an attack. So different kind of focuses there, but obviously, you know, the passive is very interesting. I believe the 6 and the 7 is just kind of focused on the premise that Hit is from Universe 6, Goku's from Universe 7. That's probably like straightforward there, but you know, in general, this is still really powerful. This is still pretty nice in my opinion. There are some things I guess that you could be a bit critical of. I think the biggest thing is probably the amount of damage reduction that they are getting. You know, 10%, so 30% up to maybe 46%. That's not the best in the world, especially for a character who does not have guard. So, you know, when you think about those things, slot 1 is probably a situation where it's kind of dangerous to put them. Now, to be fair, there are some things that maybe will help in that respect. I mean, obviously, you know, when you do this kind of slot 3 mechanic, you'll boost their defense, so that's 100% right there, on top of the 100% or 200%, so that's 300%, you know, plus damage reduction, no guard, but then also you get another 160%. All those things considered, you know, maybe they could work in slot 1. Probably their ideal position will be slot 2 in the grand scheme of things, but it's a very interesting kind of design. If we do go back to the original kind of design for this unit, originally they did have a similar kind of focus with their slot 1, slot 2 viability, and slot 3 specific viability. Yes, they boosted the stats, you know, they had attacks guaranteed to hit, so that's the same, disabling enemy guard. Now this is in general, so that's nice, high chance to dodge, which has been moved into the general kind of position, but still, most of the items for them are the same. Now, one thing I want to kind of show here, because you can see it in the post right here, of course, with the active right here, but it's easier to show here. They do have an active where they boost their attack and defense by 13% for the rest of the fight after doing 3 or more supers in battle if HP is 76% or less. So you do have a bit of an HP condition, but it is very easy to get this active skill to work pretty much probably by like the second time they show up basically, and then you know, you're off to the races in that sense in terms of them being even better than before with the active skill boosting their attack and defense. So all that stuff basically, you know, they have a lot of good stuff to offer. Now, I will say I've seen a lot of people kind of be a bit hesitant on the like praise for this character, because when you look at this character, it does seem kind of finicky in terms of how you want to use them, because part of their kit is locked to them being a slot 1, slot 2 character, part of their kit is locked to being a slot 3 character. You're like, what is going to be the best spot for them? I will say right now, based off what I can tell, based off what I've seen and everything, it seems like the best way to approach using this character is to use them to start off as a slot 3 character, you know, boost their defense, because defense is very important for the tanking and everything to survive a fight, right? So have them be slot 3, have them float, they'll do their defense, they'll do a bunch of additionals, and also the interruption will allow them to basically interrupt any sort of potential normal or super that could do damage, and that'll make them much safer in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, you know, keep it pushing, they'll boost their stats when they attack and everything, they'll have that damage reduction, so all of those things will allow them to be able to survive in slot 3, and then once you get this built up, then of course you want to focus on boosting their attack. So by then, you could put them in slot 1, probably slot 2 is their best position after that, because, you know, you don't want to necessarily take a risk with the super if they don't dodge or something. That could be a bit dangerous. We'll have to see, of course, if you have dupes and everything, but, you know, I think slot 3 is where you want to start them off, and then eventually you want to work them into slot 2, maybe slot 1, worst comes to worst, but, you know, I think this character has a lot more potential than people realize. Do I think they're a top 10 LR? No, I think the top 10 is very heavy, powerful. I mean, obviously their top 5 is insane. The other like 5 through 10 spot, or like 6 through 10, there may be some interchangeability that maybe Hit and God Goku can fit into, but I think in the grand scheme of things, just off the top of my memory, I just don't think that this unit will fit into the top 10. You can hope for it, of course, but I think we'll have to see, because, you know, there are some things that maybe can hurt them if, you know, dodge is being canceled by certain fights. You know, that could be an issue, of course. You know, I mean, any sort of like turn locking or like, you know, slot locking, that can be a very big problem for them, because maybe they're stuck in slot 1, but they don't have the defense built up. Those things can really hinder them. So there are some things that kind of be wary of, but, you know, in the grand scheme of things, I do like what this passive has to offer. Now, with the super attack effect, so with the 12 key, both super attacks were at the 12 and 18 are melee super, so pay attention to that, of course. With the 12 key super, greatly raise attack and defense for 1 turn, cause colossal damage, and a great chance to stun. You love to see that. With the 18 key, greatly raise attack and defense for 4 turns, cause mega colossal damage, and a great chance to stun once again. So, you know, boosting the attack and defense for 4 turns, that is actually very, very, very helpful. You know, they didn't have that ability before. Now being able to do it for 4 turns, that does mean, you know, if you keep them on rotation, they are boosting their stats, but also, even if you float them, the 18 key will still kind of track for the next time they show up. So that can be pretty helpful as well. So I think they did make this update specifically in mind of the idea of floating them off, which I do appreciate. That is a very helpful thing for them, because you don't want to float them off and all of a sudden they're losing a lot of their value and like the stat boosting. This helps them even more. So I do love that. I really do appreciate that. But, you know, for a pretty simple, relatively straightforward Yellow Coin LR, it is a pretty good kit in my opinion. You know, it's not the peak of kits. You know, I think comparing it to example like LR Pikkon, which is probably not a fair comparison because Hit and God Goku are an old unit, Pikkon's a new unit, but comparing the two as yellow coin LRs, obviously there are different levels to this. Pikkon's lead is far better. I mean, you look at the passive skill, there is no real support that they're offering to any of their teammates, which is something that you would want to see nowadays in a lot of units, but they're not doing that. So they are kind of individually focused, which does suck. You also don't really see a lot of built-in crit chance. In fact, I don't think there's any sort of built-in crit for them for their kit, so that is kind of problematic there. But I mean, you know, I think in the grand scheme of things, it's not really the end of the world in that respect. But that's just my kind of thoughts there. I do want to touch on a few things, of course. You know, we'll talk about their categories, of course, because I didn't really talk about that in their link skills. For their categories, obviously not a very diverse character. And, you know, it's just the fault of them being Hit and God Goku, right? You know, Hit's not a Saiyan, Goku is not from Universe 6, Hit is not from Universe 7. You know, the two characters, even though it's a very hype moment in the story and the show and everything, the fact of the matter is the two characters don't really have a lot of overlapping categories that allow them to fit into different stuff. So obviously they can fit into Accelerated Battle, you know, Tournament of Power, Universe Survival Saga, Joined Forces, Tournament Participants, Legendary Existence, but that's pretty much it. That's all they can do. They're not going to fit onto Pure Saiyans, they're not going to fit onto Power Beyond Super Saiyan, they're not going to fit onto those types of things, they're not going to fit onto Turtle School. For Hit, obviously, you know, Hit's not going to allow, like, Universe 6 or Universe 7. That's the problem with this character. So, like, this character is very limited in terms of where you can use them, but I think with that being said, they're going to be pretty good in the teams that you want to use them, like Accelerated Battle under the new Hit lead and everything. I think those things are going to be pretty good. Now the links. So, you know, a lot of people are very excited for this character to get the EZA because obviously they link with a lot of other hits, namely the new int hit, right? So if you look at Hit and seeing what they can link of in terms of like their links and everything, they're getting 5 of their 7 links. They're obviously not getting Legendary Power, and they're not getting Tournament of Power. That's the difference for this character, is they don't have Tournament of Power link with a Hit, so that's the difference there. But you look at what the links are offering. So at like the max level and everything, that means the Hit is able to get, you know, 2 key attack plus 50%, defensive boost up to 30%, which is actually really nice. That cannot be underappreciated in my opinion through cold judgment stuff. And also they are reducing enemies defense as well, so those things are really good. Obviously if we go back to this, you know, the attack boost and the defensive boost is even more helpful because, for those who remember, Hit is a character who can stack, so the stacking makes those stats even more better, that it makes it look even more sexy, so that is something you love to see. Obviously they do share several different categories, so that allows for some overlap as well for certain missions and stuff. You know, the new Hit and God Goku, they fit into linking with, like, for example, Go Frieza right here, so there's stuff like that that are very beneficial. Of course, you know, Jiren and stuff, so very nice character. Actually, I didn't even realize this. They actually link really well with LR Pikkon, which is really funny. Obviously, only through tournament participants, that's the only kind of overlap for teams, but having that linking is actually pretty good. Cold Judgment is a fantastic defensive category kind of link or whatever, not a category, but defensive link. So yeah, I mean, this character can be very fun. I think it's going to be a very awesome character to use. I plan to use this character, like, for sure, because they are a character who I have always known that they're not that great as a unit compared to others, but they're just so fun. They're really just a fun unit to use, and I think this is going to be even more fun this time around. Now, I will say, for the hidden potential build, you know, what do you want to do with them? Obviously, we saw they have a lot of built-in dodge chance, they have some built-in damage reduction, they do have some nice kind of super attack effects and stuff. What do you want to do with them? What I would say is, when it comes to this kit, you want to really kind of double down on the dodge. You want to double down on dodge. Bear in mind, this is an STR unit, so they're going to give you a free-to-play 5, you know, crit to your hidden potential build, so that's going to be automatic. So you got already built-in crit. I would say double down on the dodge, because that can be pretty important for a lot of situations, and then go into the additional. I think the additional is very important, and obviously, you know, if you're facing fights where for some reason, you know, the dodge is canceled and stuff, I don't know why you would bring this character into those types of fights, but if you are, then you probably want to put them in slot 3 and hope the additionals will carry you through the day. But dodge and then additional, I would say, is the go-to. You don't really need to put crit. You could put crit because they don't have it in their kit. I think that's a pretty logical kind of approach to it. But again, they have that free-to-play, like, built-in crit within potential build. And also, the fact of the matter is, like, I may make a separate vid on this, but I'll say it right now as well. I think the hidden potential system needs to be revamped, because for a lot of units, if not every unit nowadays, it feels like crit has no value, because you rather do additionals for the super attack effects or stacking or other things like this, or you would much rather do dodge for the sake of survivability. So I feel like, you know, crit nowadays doesn't really have much value or much weight or much stake in the game. Like, I feel like it's really not that great anymore, but that's just my kind of take on the situation. The fact of the matter is, this unit seems pretty good. I know I kind of went into a lot of different kind of chatterbox kind of stuff here with the character, but I am very excited for this character, for the EZA. We don't know when the EZA will happen. I believe actually maybe I can go into like the JP side of things and maybe their kit will show up here perhaps. I think no, it's not going to show up there. So obviously they haven't gone through the data download yet. We don't know when their EZA will drop. We just know it's going to be happening sometime very soon. So we can look forward to that, of course. But yeah, you know, Hit and God Goku, I'm pretty stoked for this, I'm not gonna lie, because I don't have the new Hit, it does suck, but having this character, having them with a new EZA, that seems very fun. I think I'm going to be having a fun time with this character for sure. Okay, so we talked about the character, we talked about him potential build, we talked about all the important stuff. Now let's talk about the other stuff that came from the data download. It's not as important, I would say, as the new EZA, of course, but still some new stuff to look forward to, which is important because Golden Week has been relatively dry in the grand scheme of things for a lot of players in terms of what we were expecting. So we finally have some new stuff. Obviously, this is the stuff from the data download. So we got a new Extreme Super Battle Road stage. I am so glad they're coming back to this because I thought they forgot about it, but we got this. Stage 68, which can be only attempted by Miraculous Awakening characters. We'll talk about that in just a sec. Also, we got new missions for the Fighting Legend Frieza fight. So that is something that's very surprising as well. I did not really expect this because Frieza, you know, he doesn't really have any importance in the Universe 6 versus Universe 7 arc. I guess the only kind of relevancy is Frost, who is like the opposite or like the other version of Frieza. I guess like that's the only thing, but that's all there is to it. So it is very interesting that we're getting that, but we will be getting the new missions and everything soon. When it comes to the missions, we have no idea what to look forward to or like what to expect. These were the last missions that we got, and this was like back in August of last year, so obviously you see like Universe 6 and stuff. Most likely we'll get some missions in relation to the new stuff we're getting, so maybe Accelerated Battle we'll see something, maybe Full Power, we'll have to wait and see, but other than that, we really have no actual understanding or no information of what the missions are going to entail for Frieza in the fight. However, do understand that, you know, the missions themselves may make the fight a lot harder than what it is, but the fact of the matter is Frieza as a fight is really not that difficult. It's a very straightforward fight. You look at the damage that Frieza is doing, it is damn near pathetic. The only reason that Frieza will be maybe a hard fight is if the category missions are very niche and you don't have all the great characters, then it'll be a problem. But for the most part, this should be a cakewalk, especially now in 2025. This should be so easy to beat. Now, the other thing is the Extreme Super Battle Road stage. So obviously, again, they said we're going to be getting the stage for Miraculous Awakening. So when we look at the category, right, to understand, you know, what the Miraculous Awakening category has to offer, obviously only two leaders, MUI and Beast Gohan. A lot of people probably have Beast Gohan at this point in time, or they have MUI at this point in time because they've been on so many banners. They've been out for some time now. So if you have them, that's great. That's going to be a free leader skill for you, and that's going to be awesome to build a team. But maybe you don't have them, in which case that does suck, but it is not the end of the world, because when you look at this category, there are a lot of other great units that you could maybe build another team through. So for example, you have Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, you have HitKu Goku, you have Int Namek Goku, of course, you have Super EZA Gohan right down here. One character who I think is going to be very powerful and maybe a bit underappreciated without people realizing it is Super EZA Cell. I know a lot of people love Super EZA Tech Cell, but I think when you look at the LRs and everything, you're like, oh wow, these LRs are so great, let me just use all of them. But Tech Cell may be one of the best characters for this category to use in the missions and all that stuff because he's a slot 1 character, he's insanely powerful, he's very good in general, he doesn't really need the links to operate, so all those things need to be considered. You know, Super Saiyan Blue Evolved Vegeta, the free-to-play quest mode Bardock is there, so you could have an option right there. Tandem Body Goku is still pretty decent. The thing we have to understand is that Extreme Super Battle Road is so pathetically weak as an event. It's not like the hard fight that it was way back in the day. So nowadays, it's going to be very easy to beat, especially if you have some of these newer characters, right? So that's going to be pretty easy right there in the grand scheme of things. Honestly, you probably could take a character like STRUI Goku and still cook. You know, you could take some of those older units and probably still have a field day. So, you know, I think in the grand scheme of things, this should be pretty easy. Now, one thing I do kind of want to point out is what to expect for the fight. Now, one thing that is important to note, maybe you guys do not know this, but maybe you guys do. For those who do know, right, you know, Super Battle Road is the original form, Extreme Super Battle Road is the updated form of Super Battle Road, the basic form. The way it works is that, you know, the original Super Battle Road fight is going to be pretty much the exact same as the new one. So if we look at the original Super Battle Road stage for like Miraculous Awakening, this is the exact same opponents that you will be seeing in the Extreme Super Battle Road stage. I may do a separate vid to like show a guide to beat and stuff. If you guys want to see that, let me know in the comments down below, because honestly, I don't think that's going to get a lot of traction, but maybe you guys want to see it, and if you guys want to see it, I'm happy to do it. But this is from the original Super Battle Road stage. This is going to be basically the exact same as what we can look forward to seeing for the new Extreme Super Battle Road stage, which will come pretty soon. So obviously, it'll start with Frieza, it'll go to Cell and the Cell Juniors, and then it'll go Jiren in the Tournament of Power. So really simple stuff, you know, pretty straightforward. Obviously, I mean, I will say, in the grand scheme of things, I wish we got more content. I understand that maybe sounds a bit greedy, but I think I'm justified in saying that. I know I was seeing it on Twitter, you know, some people were saying last year at this point in time, we were getting a new red zone stage, like a new red zone, like sequence of stages that were pretty difficult. Obviously, you know, we had like last year at the Golden Week celebration, we had the red zone kid boost stage, and you guys remember, I actually made a vid like beating the fight and everything. That fight is, I hate it. That fight is like hell. Like, it is the personification of if I want to just do CBT. And if you guys don't know what that is, don't look it up. You don't need to know. But if you do know what it is, you understand. Like that fight is terrible. My voice just kind of lost itself right there because it's just so much traumatic for me, I guess. But yeah, I mean, in terms of content comparisons, this Golden Week celebration has been kind of lacking. Yes, we're getting some old stages, which I do appreciate that. I am so grateful that we're getting this, because I feel very upset when they don't come back to this. This is like easy, free Dragonstones, so easy for new players as well. I'm glad they're returning to this, but we do need some new content too. We need some new red zone stages. We need new challenges, and really we haven't gotten that quite yet. We still have time, so you know, there's still more time for things to happen, but for right now, we are kind of waiting to see what's going to happen in the grand scheme of things. So we'll hopefully some more stuff will happen, but this is just like kind of like a tease. I feel like this is just kind of like a drop in the ocean, you know, so I want to see more, but still we got some nice stuff to look forward to. Anyways, that's gonna be where we wrap up the vid. Obviously we talked about the data download, and also we did cover the EZA for Hit and Super Saiyan God Goku. Again, I am so excited to get this EZA in the game. I can't wait to use them. They're not on too many categories, but I know I'm gonna be having fun, that's for sure. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about the EZA and the new content and stuff. Let me know what you guys think about the Hit and Super Saiyan God Goku. How many of you have Super Saiyan God Goku in Hit as a unit in your box and everything? Let me know how excited you guys are for all that stuff in the comments down below. If you guys enjoyed the vid, again, drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel, show your support. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care, stay blessed, and I will see you all in the next one.